Hey, folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I am your host. Go check out my website, booktalkwithcorbin.com. And Corbin is spelled Corbin. You can also find me on YouTube and Facebook. Look, I'm responding to a video that was put out, probably put out, it's put out a little ways back. And it's a video where Ben Shapiro is in it. He's featured in it. Ben Shapiro, as you may or may not know, is a conservative. He wears a yarmulke, so he's a Jewish brother. Very solid intellectual. I mean, I don't always agree with what Ben has to say, but man, he challenges you because he is such a solid intellectual. He is a true critical thinker. And he has absolutely very, very popular podcasts. I would and Twitter thing. So folks, I would highly recommend that you look him up and check him out. But anyway, Ben Shapiro, this video, he's on a college campus, and of course, there's a lot of black liberals and black leftists on this forum, and they lay out the case, which is easy to do, that there's a tremendous wealth gap between black families and white families in the United States of America. And Ben didn't contest that at all. I mean, the facts are there, the stats are there. But they said to Ben, hey, what accounts for this? Now, what they wanted him to say was that, oh, well, systemic racism is the reason why there is this economic inequality or wealth gap between black families and white families. And he didn't say that at all. He didn't hesitate and answer the questions. He said culture. Culture is a critical reason. And this is what got me. Some of those black folk on that forum, most of them, as you probably know, are probably leftists. They just started laughing. They just thought what he was saying is absolutely ridiculous. And of course, they didn't give him much of an opportunity to respond. To say, well, here's why I take that position. But here it is. Look it up. Look up that video. You can put in the words. Go to YouTube.com. Put in the search engine. Debunks leftist economic inequality argument. And that's pretty much what Ben does. I think he could have done more if he was given more time. I mean, he really just could have absolutely obliterated them. But, it's a short video. There's only so much he can put out there, I guess you might say. But I wanted to give my response. And my response is this. I understand, the bulk of American families, if you're talking about middle income families, upper income families, the bulk of their wealth is in home equity. It's in their home equity. And yes, we don't have a high enough number or percentage of black folk who own homes and therefore are building equity. The main way black folks are encouraged to build wealth is to build home equity. And that's all fine and good, but here's what I'm here to say. That's not the only way. There are other ways to build wealth. Owning a home ownership is one way, but it's not the only way. And I'm going to say this too. The way I'm about to share with you is a way that any black person can get involved with, like right now, if they have a debit card or credit card and $5. No exaggeration. And this isn't some sort of insane multi-level marketing or, buy crypto and then $100 in crypto, and then 6 months later you got 100,000, or some crazy cash app nonsense or some pyramid scheme. What I'm talking about is investing in the stock market. That's one way black folk, us black folk, can build wealth. That's one way. That's one tool. And you can buy wealth, you can buy stock fraction of stock immediately. You go to stockpile.com or Ameritrade.com or Webull.com. And if you have a credit card, debit card, boom, you got $5. You can buy as little as $5. Start off with $5. You can start custodial accounts for your sons and daughters, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. You do that, $5. Get them started. Custodial account. Get them started now. I mean, really, you should. If you're a black parent, you have a son or daughter, you don't have a custodial stock account for them, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You should do that immediately. It shouldn't even be in a second thought. You start them off now, and in a few years, you're going to see, your son or daughter, they're going to be building wealth. And here's another issue we have here. Here's another issue we have here. Many times we don't know what wealth is. What constitutes wealth? How do you define wealth? See, we're critical thinkers here. What is wealth? How do you define wealth? Let me tell you what wealth is. Wealth is when you own more than you owe. There are three critical words in the definition of wealth. It's own, owner, ownership. So when you buy a share in a company, you're called a shareholder. And when you're a shareholder, you own a share of that company. You own a share of that company. You are a owner. Get that? So I've done like chess and financial literacy classes here in Louisville, and I right now have helped 8 young people, majority of them black, start their own custodial stock account. 8. All right, not a lot, but I'm still doing more. But it's 8 more than what we had before they came into my workshop. If you're a black father, black mother, you have a black child, or even a mixed child, you are wrong if you're not contacting one of those companies and saying, hey, I want to start a custodial stock account for Joey, Jamila, whatever. You should do that immediately. No excuses. You got a debit card, credit card, the social security number, boom, $5. You start with as little as $5. I mean, you start with 50, 500, or 5,000 if you want, but I'm just saying you start as little as $5. And let me tell you something: stock market is colorblind. I mean, they are truly colorblind. When you, like as an example, own some Kroger company stock, they don't know if you're black or white. Don't even ask you. I have several shares in Kroger. I love my Kroger stock. Not one time have they asked me, are you black or white? Not one time. They don't know. They don't care. I have my nephew set up. Well, my great nephew set up. He has a custodial stock account. I set it up. His grandmother and I set it up. He's a shareholder in Nike. No, I take that back. In Apple. He's a shareholder in Apple. Okay? When Apple does well, that stock does well. And my great nephew, does well. He's a partial owner in one of the most successful and largest companies in the world. Okay? It's easy to do. And folks, I'm broke as a joke. I don't have a pot that you know wet in or a window to throw it out. But I've helped 8 young people, including my great nephew, start stock custodial accounts. That's one way you can build wealth. Wealth is where you own more than you owe. Another key element of wealth is where your money's making money. It's not where you're making money. You're going out and hustling. That's if you make, let's say like you make $100,000 a month. Well, you're rich, but you're not necessarily wealthy. Wealth is where your money is making money. Wealth is where your money is making money, and that money is making more money. You got to understand that, okay? Sometimes people look at like, wow, Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley, their estates are making tens of millions of dollars a year. Right, they're wealthy. Their money's making money. How that specifically is happening, you need to check it out. Do your research. It's not like it's a secret or anything. It's called passive income, residual income. That's another way you can build wealth. So I say to black families, Get into the stock market. That's one way to build wealth. And then the other part of that equation, I guess you might say, is to get out of debt and stay out of debt. Because it's like if you owe $100,000, but you own, say, $80,000 in assets, you're negative $20,000 in the hole as far as wealth is concerned. But if you, let's say, like you're 8 years old and you have no expenses, no liabilities, no debt, none. You shouldn't have any anyway. Okay, none, zero, right? And then you listen to some crazy guy like me, and you let me set you up, work with your parents in setting up this 8-year-old with a custodial account. They got $100 in that custodial account. That's their wealth, $100. And then you just let time and compounding interest do his job. Just let that money compound, let that money increase. The stock will either increase in value, or if it's a dividend paying stock, then the company basically pays you to hold the stock. You're making money. It doesn't matter if you roll out or roll over. You're building wealth. Your money's making money. And then after a while, that money's making money. Okay? Here's a book I want to highly recommend to you. One, Learn to Earn: A Beginner's Guide to the Basics of Investing in Business. It's by Peter Lynch and John Rothschild. Peter Lynch and John Rothschild. I want to highly recommend that book. You can get it through any local bookstore, Amazon.com, or Thrift Books, or Better World Books. Okay? So let me go all the way back to how I started this off. Ben Shapiro, he said, well, it's culture. Folks, culture is just one element of culture is when the old folk teach the young folk. I mean, that's just basically it. That's how culture is passed on, is when the old folk teach the young folk. And it's where the old folks say, look, you need to buy assets and you need to stay out of debt as much as humanly possible. And wealth is where you own more than you owe. So that's where old folks say, okay, here's what we're going to do. I've explained this principle to you, this concept, this idea to you. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to these online stock brokerage accounts, and we're going to set you up a stock custodial account. And then we're going to get 5, 50, 500, 5,000, 5 million, whatever, however much money we can. And we are going to buy you some stock. We're going to buy, not buying the stock. You should be trying to buy the company. You look for a good company to invest in. Okay? And, look all around. They're all around you. Kroger, Walmart. Look at real estate investment trusts. Look at some index funds. Okay? And the best way to start learning about investing in business is the Peter Lynch book, Learn to Earn. Actually, I'll be honest with you. If I had my way, if people would send me a black child's name and mailing address in some sort of email address, I would do everything I could do to send them a copy of Learn to Earn. And then send them a letter with it that says, hey, read this. Here's some other books I'd recommend to you. And here's some places where you can approach your parents, mama and daddy, talk to them about, hey, I want to buy some stocks, and here's the brokerage companies I want to use. Again, stockpile.com, Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Webull. Okay, so that's it. And right now, start building wealth. Start building wealth. And see, the real argument is not, the real situation is not economic inequality. That's what these left-wing socialist, cultural Marxist losers want to talk to you about. And folks, I used to be one of those leftist, social, cultural Marxist losers. I used to be one for years. Do you hear me? Plural, years. Years. I'm no longer one now. Because I'm telling you, black folk in America, It's not about economic inequality. It's about opportunity. It's about education. Educate yourself about the opportunity that exists before you, dead in front of you, to build wealth through stock investing. You don't, the only way, home ownership is not the only way. And as a matter of fact, well, anyway, home ownership is not the only way. Stock investing is one way. It's very effective and it's completely and totally accessible to every black man, woman, and child in the United States of America. Share what I've just shared with you. Like, subscribe, share this podcast with others. I want to thank you for this opportunity. This is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host.